Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Journeying Together talk, the first in a series of online talks for any involved or interested in youth ministry. My name is Andy, but before I tell you about our speaker today and our panel, I'd like to tell you a little bit about SimFed, the organisers of these talks. SimFed is the Catholic Youth Ministry Federation for England and Wales. As a federation, SimFed is made up of dioceses, religious orders, organisations and movements, all of whom work with young people, thousands of young people every year between them. Collectively, they use their talents and wealth of experience to support and develop youth ministry nationally under the umbrella of SimFed, through projects, events, training, peer support, and also provide a national voice on youth ministry to the Bishops' Conference. Providing support and formation is what this series of talks is all about. The title, Journeying Together, comes from Christus Vivit, the post-synodal exhortation from Pope Francis. Quoting the final document, Pope Francis says that youth ministry has to be synodal. It should involve journeying together. Motivated by the Spirit, we can move towards a participatory and co-responsible church. No one should be excluded or exclude themselves. So on that note, you are all very welcome. If you are an experienced youth minister or just have an interest in today's topic, welcome. We encourage you to comment and submit questions using the live YouTube chat. We might not have time to ask Father Michel all the questions submitted, but our panelists will do their best to put forward your questions. Just something to note, there is about a 20-second delay in the live stream, so please be aware of that when you are putting something onto the live chat. So, just to introduce those of us who are here today. My name is Andy Clare, and I work for HCPT, the Hosanna House, and Children's Pilgrimage Trust, and I'm the Head of Education and Youth. So everything to do with young people, both abroad and home, so when we're in pilgrimage in Lourdes or back home, all to do with the spirituality, the ethos and youth work of our trust is my responsibility. And I'm representing for HCPT the one of the organisations that makes up the SimFed body. So I'm just going to hand over to Lizzie, who's going to tell you about herself.
Hiya, so I'm Lizzie. I'm the youth advisor for the Diocese of Arundel and Brighton. I'm really excited to be a part of this talk today because I feel for so long in youth ministry we've been talking about, we've had this buzz phrase of we need to meet young people where they are. We need to meet them where they are, and they're online. So God's had to send a global pandemic to kind of kick us into gear a little bit, but it's really good that we're having these conversations about how we can meet these young people where they are, which is online. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thank you, Lizzie. And now to Mary and Anna Sue.
Hi, I'm Mary and I work as a university chaplain in Sunderland in the Diocese of Hexham and Newcastle, and I'm also part of the team that's building up the Catholic Student Network, which is a part of SimFed.
Hello, and I'm Anna Sue. I work for the Diocese of Hexham and Newcastle for the Youth Ministry Trust, but currently furloughed with the global pandemic. But yeah, really thoroughly enjoy working with young people, and as Lizzie mentioned there, meeting them where they're at, which is online at the moment with everything which is going on.
Thank you, everybody. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Father Michel. Father Michel is a priest of the Diocese of Rotterdam, the Netherlands, and author of Tweeting with God, the international best-selling book which answers daring questions from young people about God, faith, prayer, and morality in 140 characters or less. He has extensive experience in youth ministry. For several years, he was a member of an advisory committee on new media and young people at the Vatican Office for Internet Affairs. Currently, Father Michel is National Youth Chaplain for Luxembourg and committed to youth ministry on an international level. His tasks involve supporting youth leaders, promoting an exchange of experiences and new ideas, and engaging in a dialogue with young people all over the world, especially through social media. Together with an enthusiastic team of young people, he continues to develop and expand international initiatives related to young people. It's the year of the word in England and Wales, and the theme is the God who speaks. Father Michael is going to talk about the importance of God's word in the digital world, a world the church has embraced over the last few months. You are very welcome, Father Michel.
May I just pray for Father Michel before he speaks? Sorry, Father Michel, to cut you off there, but I think it's important to invite God into this space. God is bigger than Zoom. God is touching all of our lives all of the time. So we ask him to send his Holy Spirit down upon you, Father Michel, that God may speak through you in everything that you say. We pray for everyone who is listening, either live or recorded afterwards, that they may open their hearts to hear your word, Lord. That they may be touched by what's spoken today and strengthened, so that they may minister to your young people more faithfully and more effectively in this difficult time. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Lizzie, and thank you for the introduction, Andy. I feel you were too generous in your words, but let's see what I can share from my experience. I think an experience that we all share is that Christ is alive. But hopefully we also share the experience that Christ is alive also online. As soon as the virus that has brought a great part of this world to a stop closed also the churches, we saw a surge in online masses. We saw that the church was moving towards the places where people were and at the moment also are. One of the memes that was going around was the devil saying to God, "Finally, I managed to close all your churches." And then God responding, "But on the contrary, I opened one in every home." Now, this is, of course, a nice meme, but I do hope that there was already a church in every home, that wherever people are living, that God also has a place. Because that's the whole idea of our faith, that we meet God wherever we are. God is coming towards us, and we just have to open ourselves to him. It also means that when we are spending time online, that God is already present there, and we just have to open ourselves for his presence. We can say a lot about this theme, and at the same time, we all have different experiences. I think there are many great opportunities on the internet and on online materials that are available. Of course, we have to think about how to use these means. And if we start by looking at what Pope Francis says, "Your Holiness, welcome in our midst," then in Christus Vivit, he is saying how important the digital environment is, and that it is the reality of today. He warns, as he does at several moments, that we should not be blind for the limits and the deficiencies of the online world. But then if we look at life in general, nothing is perfect. We always have to be careful and prepare people and protect our young people. At the same time, he does recognize the great and the extraordinary opportunities of the online environment. So I think that we all have a task to search for the best ways to be present today in the digital world, which is part of life as it is and will not go away just like that. Therefore, as it was said before, I believe strongly that the church needs to be there where people are, and therefore also be online. One of the most concrete ways in which we saw that the church was present in the past months was by all those online masses. And it's interesting to see the comments of users, of theologians, of bishops to this surge in online masses. There are those who are very positive, but also those who are commenting in a more negative way. To start with the latter ones, they were afraid that we are stimulating that people become couch potatoes, and it will be difficult to let them get up again and come to church. There were some worries about the masses which were available even after Mass was celebrated, whereas Mass is something you have to live together. And although you do it from a distance, it is a live event. People were seeing it more and more as a show was the danger. And a concern that maybe is a more clerical concern. People were worried that people would think this is all what priests do, just celebrate Mass, and then they have a wonderful free day. Now, I think the last remark depends on the priest you speak to, of course, but most people know what is going on. And in reality, what do we see? We do see them on a Sunday, and for the remainder, we don't see them. So most of those comments can be seen also in a different light. There were also those who were excited about this new way of celebrating the faith, and they said it's an excellent solution. We all know it's temporary, that the idea of the sacraments is to be together in the same space, but as long as we can't, let's experience this sense of community, which truly we can experience also online, and we'll come back to that point. We are limited by time. We all have to be together at the same moment, but we're not limited by the place. We can connect from wherever we are. And this could be a solution, some said, for areas which are very vast and where people simply cannot attend Mass every Sunday. So those online Masses, they were a stimulus for many people to start thinking about now, what can we do? How can we use the online environment for the proclamation of the gospel, but also simply to live our faith and to recognize the presence of God online, and also start to learn to listen. And maybe that listening bit is the most important. We are taught that we need to listen to God, and we try to do so the moment that we pray. But we're invited to recognize God's presence wherever we go, in that nice cup of coffee that you had this morning, or the beautiful view over the lake that you're visiting, or maybe something completely different, just a smile of somebody you encounter. God is present in all those little moments. And it is as if he's telling you, listen, don't be afraid, I am here. And do go on and live your life. The same happens online. There's so many places and opportunities for us to recognize the presence of God, but also to bring God and make his presence even be more clearly recognizable. If we look at the things that we are doing as communities, as youth ministers, as a church, then there's a number of activities that need a physical presence, which we cannot move online. Celebrating the sacraments, ideally we do that together with the community in a certain place. If you want to pray over somebody and place your hands on the person, that is a little bit difficult online. You can, however, pray online in real time. When you come together with people, as we are doing now, you can have proper communication. You can have a proper experience of prayer. You can pray the rosary, you can pray over people, you can exchange, you can share about the Bible text. There's many ways in which you can live your faith online in real time. And then there are ways in which we can prepare something in advance and then leave it online for those who have the time to visit it, for your catechesis or your explanation about next Sunday Gospel, or, well, you can think of many other things. So much of what we are doing can be moved to the online environment. But of course, that is not enough, because this online environment is offering very new possibilities. So even more important than doing what we already did online is to search for new ways. And that is something we need to do together. It is not up to me to tell, this is what you have to do. but we can, by exchanging, come to new ideas and new possibilities. And I believe, especially for us who are working with young people, that we need to involve those young people because they have much more understanding and a feeling for what is happening online than we do. Most of us are of a generation when we were born, computers were not yet very much used, and the internet came a little bit later. And the young people, they have been born in this digital world. When they were babies, they were working on iPads. It's something that I didn't know as a baby. So we need to involve them also in developing new forms of being present online and trying to help them to stop from time to time. Not only be active, but also start to listen. Something we need to do, but something we also would like our young people to do. And in that way, we can start building up a proper online community. I'll give some examples of that. But if we look at the way we relate to God, we relate to God from wherever we are, at whatever moment we feel like relating to him. He always feels like relating to us, but maybe we don't at every moment. And it is possible to have a true relationship with God, although we cannot see him, we cannot touch him. And although there is a different way of relating to him than we relate to the people in our household, for example, but still we have a true relationship with God. And the same thing is possible online. It is possible to form and to build up and to live an online community. Yes, there are some limits. We'll come to that, but there are also many possibilities. If we look at the example of Tweeting with God, we started in the Netherlands, in my parish, with questions of young people. And then step by step, we're moving to a more online approach until what we are now, a fully online community in which we work together with people all around the world, many of whom I have never met in real life, but people that I really know, that I have gotten to appreciate for many different reasons, and that have something to offer to the community of Tweeting with God. And together we offer something to the entire internet community. So the idea is that we search for answers to questions of people together. And there are many answers online. We know that there are many questions online, but which are the reliable answers? Where do you find an answer that responds to what you need? Well, that is something that we try to work towards with the team of Tweeting with God. And one of the things we have developed is a virtual encounter with the saints. We all have our little friend, which is helping us to go online, but we can also use it to meet the saints. There's an application called Online with Saints, which basically gives you a social media profile of the saints, where they present themselves, where they speak about themselves. Just to give you a little feeling for how the saints can relate to us, we will now show you a little video of Carlo Acutis, who is going to be beatified in the autumn.
My name is Carlo Acutis. I grew up in Italy and died in 2006 at the age of 15. I was a computer geek and I loved to work on projects for the church. I was kind of a joker and loved to laugh with my friends. My relationship with God was the most important for me. I placed the Eucharist at the center of my life and often stopped to pray to Jesus present in the church. I also prayed the Rosary and helped people who needed my help. I kind of foreseen that I would die young, but that did not sadden me. Rather, I realized that our aim has to be the infinite and not the finite. When they discovered my severe illness, they thought that I was going to my final destination helped me to die happily. Whether you are a computer geek like me or not, your special skills will be greatly valued if you use them to spread the message of Jesus' love online.
So here you have one of the future saints that is showing how it is possible to use online means. He did so with the means of his time. Today he will be using other means, and tomorrow we will be using other means again. But what does remain the same is that God is present here and now, and it is up to us to show to others how we can listen to his voice, how we can recognize his voice, both offline and online. Important, I think, if we speak about online community, even more than in other parts of our lives, is that we keep a number of things in mind. It cannot be that our online community is completely exclusive. We have to involve others in our community. Too often we say, oh, how many people do you have? Oh, don't take my young people. We are very careful in maintaining what we have and forget that we all are part of one larger whole, one larger family. So especially when you are speaking about an online community, it is impossible not to have offline contacts. And it is very important to have them. To start with, very clearly for the sacraments, we do hope that people will visit a community somewhere locally. But if they do so, and we want to prevent sacramental snacking, so to say, then they need to be part of this community as well. And in fact, the first Christians did this. They could travel from one community to the other, and they would simply be welcomed as brothers and sisters in the faith. Maybe too often we are looking at our own little environment and forgetting that the church is always bigger and larger, that God is not just speaking in our little group, but that God is speaking everywhere and to everybody. And speaking of youth, eternal youth is something we have not yet discovered how to achieve. So also our young people are with us for just a certain period of time. And then we need to let them go to other environments and other groups. So we cannot claim that the community that we form is an exclusive one. We now have this moment of communitarian experience, but later on you will meet other people, and that is great, and that is how it should be. That is part of the reality of life. These are just a few thoughts that might help a discussion to get started, and I do hope that you're ready to give some comments. If you'd like to stay in touch, you can find the coordinates for the social media up there, and you can also search for Tweeting with God and Online with Saints on the social media. Thank you, and I look forward to our dialogue just now.
So, Father Michel, thank you very much for those words and for sharing with us, and for sharing your technology as well, with the images in the background. And it leads me on to a question that I have, not specifically about what you have said today, but it made me think about the many church students in formation, and are they being prepared for this new way of communicating and connecting, not just with young people, but with the thousands of, hundreds of thousands of people who they could reach out to by using this new form of, well, to them. I suspect that their formation in seminary is of a more traditional nature. Is there a medium or a drive or some way of influencing their formation so that they have the skills to pick this up and to really run with it?
Thank you, Andy. I think, yes, it is very important that those who are appointed to proclaim the faith and or even ordained to proclaim the faith, that they can do so in all the different environments, also online. So I agree with you that it will be very important to include this in the curriculum of the seminary training. At the same time, we also know that not everybody is having the same skills. Some people are very good using digital means, others are less so. And thankfully, priests and other ordained ministers, they are just a tiny percentage of our church community, not even 1%. There's many other people with great skills. So I believe that we should not only focus on the seminary, although I agree with you, it's important to include it in the curriculum. We need to use the skills of all those people that know so well how to use these means. We are a church community, we are a larger group. So let's find ways in which we can put the skills of everybody to work. We just saw Carlo Acutis just as an example. He learned how to make websites and brought some knowledge about Eucharistic miracles online. That's just an example. Probably today we will do something very different about that theme. And probably somebody else could find more technical and more beautiful ways to do it. But Carlo did it with the means of his time in his situation. I think if we all try to do what we can with the means that we have, I've seen some priests online with very simple means and a bit clumsy videos, but the message they were passing on was very authentic and very beautiful. People are looking more for authenticity than beautiful professional films. In fact, if you do everything professional, and people are starting to doubt, is this advertisement or is this real life? So a few thoughts in response to your question, Andy.
Thank you, Father Michel. I think we are leading the way in not being too professional here today. So thank you for that. I'd like to throw the floor open to Mary and Anisu. I believe they have a question for you.
Yep, there's a question about how can we make our social media more interactive? So how can we make sure that people really get involved with the community, asking questions, and it doesn't become just like a one-way, like
traffic.
Yeah, one-way traffic, that people get involved.
Yes, one of the dangers of seeing social media or using social media is seeing it as a channel where you can simply drop all the things that you want to say. If I stand in front of a group, I need to communicate with the group. And I need to speak in such a way that they can understand me, that I respond to whatever is of their interest. And I can do so by asking questions or by looking at their faces. That you can do less online, but there's other ways in which on social media you can involve people. You can do some polls to find out what do they like. You can create some more interactive posts where people are triggered to react, triggered to get involved. You can ask your very faithful followers to start sharing a little bit more that what you're doing. Not in the sense of advertisement, but in the sense of getting more people involved. And in general, I think the interactivity is very important. It does take a lot of time and effort. I do know that my personal social media is suffering a little bit under all the other things that we are doing. But thankfully, we have a whole team of Tweeting with God, which is taking care of the channels of Tweeting with God and Online with Saints and all the things that we are doing. And they try to interact at every moment in a way that is corresponding to the group we are speaking to. So you will need to find out what is really important for our people. And of course, the best way is simply to ask and to get reactions. Sometimes the most simple posts get most reactions, simply because people, we sometimes think they want very splendid things, but they want, first of all, a relationship. They want to belong, they want to be part. So the construction of your online community, not only in a technical sense, but especially in a real sense, is something to really keep in mind, I would say. Again, just a few thoughts, because there's so much to say. And also, if you look around, there's wonderful experts giving ideas and tips online.
Great, thanks, Father Michel. I think Lizzie has a question for you now.
Yeah, so just kind of a follow-up to that, really, that you say you've got a team around you. So Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Parish is saying, what are your tips for using social media for small parish groups with sort of really quite limited resources? Is there anything you can do on a small scale to kind of have a big reach?
Yes, well, if you look at how social media was born, it was individuals posting something about their lives. So there's many examples of very successful channels of parishes, of communities, of groups that are very successful, but are run by only 1 or 2 people. The whole idea is to connect with your public. I think that's the most important thing. So whether you're small or big, you can always share something that is relevant. On the one hand, you can prepare your own posts and do things, but that does take some time. You can also share whatever others are doing. You can take advantage of what a team like the one of Tweeting with God is doing and reposting the post that you think might be useful for your team. And I'm sure if you look around the different groups that are working with youth, you will find some very interesting memes or posts that would be interesting for your groups as well. Not only do we support each other as communities in this way, but also it saves you a lot of work and makes it possible to engage with your people, send them good quality material to which they will hopefully want to react, which at the same time you don't have to develop yourself. So that more time can be spent in further interacting, because one of the important things is also to react to comments that are being placed and to monitor a bit, to manage, but especially to continue that interaction, which starts hopefully with interesting posts.
Thank you, Father Michel. You were talking in your little chat that you gave to us about praying online. How do you find that? Are you able to do adoration? Does that work quite well? What sorts of prayer work well online with young people?
I think many forms of prayer are suitable for praying online. The most important thing is that those who are praying are really involved. I think we all have the experience, especially in the past months, that we get a little bit bored of looking at the screen all the time. And that sometimes it can be very good to hide your image and do some other things at the same time. All those people following us now on YouTube, I'm very sure that they all have their own priorities, and that is very good. But when you're praying, I think it's important to be focused on what you're doing more than with almost any other activity. You really need to be involved as a community, and people feel that. And the other thing for praying, I think it's very useful to do so in a video conference environment where you can see each other and hear each other and interact. So the way we pray as a team of Tweeting with God is indeed in a conference environment, and there's just one person leading the prayer. It could be the rosary, it could be a spontaneous prayer, it could be in the past months the Holy Mass, it could be adoration. We also tried that. It really depends on what is needed for your group. And as I say, the attitude of everybody, the willingness to join in. And what I feel helps is if before the prayer and the group is not too large, just to say something about yourself and how things are going so that you're really connected. Just as if you would enter the church and before entering the church as itself, you might meet people and on the threshold have a little chat or have coffee after Mass in the parish hall, some things that you cannot do. We need to find other ways to have this interaction between people and to stimulate it.
And I guess just one more from me. You mentioned about engaging your online community with local churches. Have you got any really quick tips on how we can do that?
Well, so from my perspective, it's a very simple one because we have an international community. They are everywhere in the world. They will have to find their local communities. But if you as a youth group are doing things online and you want to move also offline, so to say, to go to church, you can simply invite the online group to do so. And if you get a few people to share about their desire to meet the others offline, that might be a helpful thought. And another one is explaining the importance of being offline in order to be online. There is not just online, and our relationships in our lives should not only evolve online. Unfortunately, in the past months, for many people, it was the case. I myself, I only saw people when I went shopping. And for the remainder, for a long time in Luxembourg, we were really stuck to our houses and living alone. The only communication was online, and that's great. But it's wonderful if at a certain moment you can move offline again. And in fact, I often tell the young people that it is good to switch off your phone from time to time in order to be online with God. That was before the experience of being online all the time. Now, of course, we all realize that we really have to switch off those phones in order to be online with people at a table and see them and maybe eat together, at least smile to each other and hear each other. Some things that you can do online, but we also know it's different when you meet them in real life. So I think if we appeal to that feeling to members of our online community, they will also realize how important that is.
Brilliant, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Father Michel. And thanks for opening yourself up to answering the questions that have come from our panel and from our wider audience. We've been monitoring YouTube and people have been watching. So that's a great start. So before I wind things up, I just want to a little plug for the other talks coming in this series. So moving on from our great start today, we have our next talk on Wednesday, the 16th of September, again at 11 o'clock in the morning, titled Removing Obstacles for Mission, Safeguarding Governance and Risk Management. That probably sounds a bit heavy, but I'm sure it will be delivered brilliantly by Malcolm Hart, who's the director of the Centre for Evangelisation for the Australian Bishops' Conference. Then we have a month later, in October the 14th, a field hospital for young people, ministry through pastoral lens. And then again in November the 11th, synodality, a key to the evangelization of young people. So please keep an eye on all the SimFed social media outlets for all this information. We will be sharing as much as we can with you, and this video will be obviously on YouTube for everyone to watch forevermore. So it just remains for me to thank the SimFed organisers, for Dom for doing all the technical setups and the support that she's had from other people around the SimFed family, from Lizzie, from Anasu and Mary, and from Claire, who's in the background but has been monitoring and doing all the stuff that needs to go on to make these things safe and work well. So thank you to the team, and from me, I'm very delighted to be part of this talk today. Father Michel, thank you very much, and may God bless you with everything that you're doing, and continue the great work that you are doing, and also the support you give to us, and hopefully the support we can give to you too.
Thank you. It was a great joy to join you this morning, and may God bless you all, especially as you move your ministry more and more online.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the SimFed family. We will see you again very soon. Goodbye.